Hi there, this is Solitary Ronan from Solitary Ronan Films, and welcome to another random review. Today's random review is John Dahl's Red Rock West from 1993, starring Nicolas Cage, Lara, Flynn, Boyle, J.T. Walsh and Dennis Hopper. This is one of those films that hasn't been on Blu-ray. I think there's a German Blu-ray perhaps, but it's finally getting a nice Blu-ray release. This is a neo-noir that should have really been in imprints. Neo-noir Volume 1, and obviously they've just released a Volume 2 and it's not on that either. So this is the Signal 1 Region B, which is a very nice release. And it has a booklet and it also has a Blu-ray and DVD combo, which you don't see as often anymore. John Dahl is an interesting little filmmaker. His debut in 1989 was Kill Me Again with Val Kilmer and Joanne Whaley. I think she later would become Joanne Whaley Kilmer. And then 4 years later he did Red Rock West. Then he had his kind of big success with The Last Seduction, made Rounders in 1998, and then he kind of made the odd film in the early to mid 2000s. And then pretty much just became a television director. And just for laughs, I'm going to read out the TV shows that he directed episodes for, if you'll bear with me, because there's quite a few. So Battlestar Galactica, Breaking Bad, True Blood, Shameless, Falling Skies, Homeland, Arrow, Vampire Diaries, Person of Interest, Dexter, The Americans, Californication, Outlander, The Strain, The Bridge, House of Cards, Justified, Hannibal, The Affair, Iron Fist, The Good Doctor, The Walking Dead, Ray Donovan, Billions, Yellowstone, amongst others. So pretty much every successful American TV show John Dahl pretty much directed episodes of. But let's talk about Red Rock West, because that's far more interesting. Like I say, it's a neo-noir. It has your classic noir hero, a good person who is trapped and seemingly can't get out of a situation that he in some regard is guilty of getting himself into, but fate seems to transpire against him. Of getting out of the situation. Dahl makes, as a darkly funny film, the number of shots of Nicolas Cage going past the sign that says you are now leaving Red Rock, you are now welcome to Red Rock, as no matter what he tries to do to get away from this small town, he's always kind of ends up back in it. So we meet Nick Cage's character, Michael, who is obviously sleeping in his car. He's down to his last $5, and he has a pre-arranged meeting, a drilling crew to get a job. He's got a contact there. He's an ex-Marine. And he has to fill out a form, and he has a leg injury, which he has the chance to kind of lie about, but he doesn't. He's honest on the form, and therefore he doesn't get the job. And his kind of contact friend kind of says, well, you could have actually lied about your leg. And Nicolas Cage says, well, that wouldn't have been right. He goes to an abandoned, or what's the seemingly abandoned gas station, because he's out of petrol to spend his last $5 on petrol, and he sees behind the counter at least about $120 that he could take because there's nobody about, but again he chooses not to. So this establishes Nicolas Cage's character as, despite the fact he's down in his luck and out of money, out of a job, he's not going to make those choices. So he gets his $5 of petrol, goes into this town, goes into the bar for a cup of coffee. The barman is the wonderful J.T. Walsh, who sadly died way too early. I think The Negotiator with Samuel L. Jackson was his last film in '96 or something like that. And J.T. Walsh sees the plates in his car from Texas, and J.T. Walsh assumes he is somebody that he is waiting for. So he says, "Are you here about the job?" Nicolas Cage, because he's desperate, because he's down in his luck, goes along with it and pretends to be Lyle from Texas. And J.T. Walsh takes him into his office and gives him $5,000 for killing his wife, played by Lara Flynn Boyle. But Nicolas Cage, being the good man that he is, he decides to go out to the wife, to Lara Flynn Boyle, and say, "You need to leave because your husband's trying to kill you." And instead of saying, "Well, thanks very much, I'll pack my bags and leave," she offers him $5,000 to kill J.T. Walsh. But again, Nicolas Cage, being the good person that he is, decides, okay, I'll take these people's money, I'll write a letter to the sheriff saying, you really need to have a word with these two people, and I'll leave town, 10 grand richer. What could possibly go wrong? But there's some lightning, there's some heavy rain, and events transpire that he doesn't leave town. He has to go to a local hospital, at which point we find out who the sheriff is. And then, just to make matters worse, the real hitman from Texas turns up. And if you're pretending to be a hitman and then the real hitman turns up, probably one of the people that you really don't want to see as the real hitman is Dennis Hopper. And then once Dennis Hopper comes to town, Nicolas Cage gets deeper into trouble, but then we find out that J.T. Walsh and Lara Flynn Boyle aren't necessarily who we think they are. Again, there's another layer of deception and intrigue layered on, which I'm not going to get into, and then it all ends up kicking off in a spectacular fashion. Dennis Hopper, this is probably the role where he's almost Frank Booth from Blue Velvet. The film itself does have a kind of Twin Peaks David Lynch feel. The fact that the bar is the double R bar for Red Rock. The fact that, Dennis Hopper is in it. Not necessarily Twin Peaks, but definitely Lynch. The fact he is almost getting to Frank Booth territory. There's a scene in the car, and the four characters in the car, which is reminiscent of the car journey in Blue Velvet. And again, Hopper is just wonderful with that menace. He starts off being fairly jovial. He's got a link with Cage because they were both Marines. But that quickly sours when greed gets involved. So it's a classic noir setup of a decent person, because a lot in the noir films they were guys who came back from World War II, down in their luck. They certainly make a choice to get involved, but then every attempt they make to get out of the situation, you know, fate intervenes and it just gets worse and worse, and they get deeper and deeper in the hole. This was Cage before he kind of became a huge star, the year after leaving Las Vegas, and then The Rock and Con Air, and he almost became larger than life when he would go full Cage. So this is him, especially opposite Hopper. He is kind of more, he internalizes, as you can see in his face, how did I get into this, while Hopper is doing Hopper things. Lara Flynn Boyle, who obviously was in Twin Peaks as well, she is fairly restrained and edgy, but obviously tries to manipulate Cage just like she's manipulated other male characters in the story. JT Walsh is wonderful, with those kind of lizard blue eyes that he used so effectively throughout his career. It has a nice, sparse, cool score. It's really well paced. It has some brutality to it, but it has some really interesting and fun twists and turns. Again, a perfect example of American neo-noir from the 90s, which was kind of a purple patch for neo-noir, as the imprint box sets would suggest. It's a really nice release. This one has a commentary with John Dahl. It's got a new interview with John Dahl, which is really interesting. There's a new interview with editor Scott Chestnut. That's his real name, honest. A new interview with actor Dale Gibson, and caged in a video essay by Petros Patsilvas, apologies for the pronunciation, where he talks about Nicolas Cage's performance. And like I showed earlier, there's a nice little booklet. So again, it's one of those films that I saw in video, one of those films that I've just had in DVD all these years, so it's nice that it's getting a UK Blu-ray release. It's region B, but who knows, it might get a region A release if it hasn't already. I'm not quite sure. I know there was a German Blu-ray of it. So that's Red Rock West, a fun neo-noir, great performances, and lots of wonderful twists and turns. So please let me know in the comments below if you've seen Red Rock West and what you think of it, and hopefully join me again for more random reviews. This is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, saying farewell.